my first introduction to you was, the person who had the Instagram handle at New York City. So if you guys look up on Instagram, New York City, Liz will be there. That is her account, among many other. Founded, sold many companies before. You have investments and you're still going. You have a lot of things cooking. So please give us a little overview of who is Liz.
Who am I? That's so funny. Yeah. I guess we can just dive right into it.
I was asking you, how did the at New York City start? How did this thing start? You were in college.
Yeah. So I was in college. I think this was I went to NYU. This was my junior year. And I got really sick with Lyme disease. I grew up in Westchester and was always playing with my brothers and in the woods. And it was completely debilitating. But I had always thought I was going to go work in publishing. I had interned at Condé Nast. And so that was my trajectory, that I ultimately thought I was going to go graduate and go work at Condé Nast or Hearst. And I was at a point where I literally couldn't even hold a conversation. I didn't know what people were saying to me. I mean, chronic pain. It just completely flipped my life upside down. And I was like resting in bed one day and I was scrolling through Twitter and I read an article in Bit's blog when Nick Bilton was there, and he wrote an article that Instagram raised a Series A of $7 million and they had 1 million users. And I don't know, I signed up. What
year was this?
2010 maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
2011, 2010. And I tried to register the username Liz. That was taken. Liz NYC was taken. And I was like, okay, well, I live in New York City. So, and it registered through and I was like, that's weird. Like I literally didn't think anything of it at the time. And then I honestly forgot about it because back then there was like MySpace, Tumblr, Facebook, and Twitter were the big social networks.
And Instagram was just on iPhone. Because I remember I wanted an iPhone so bad just to get on Instagram my junior year of high school.
That's so funny. Yeah. And I remember like this was obviously in the early days. Now they have over 1 billion users comparatively. And I would mention it to my friends like, this is so weird. I got this handle. Like I'm on this platform and they were like, what is Instagram? I've never heard of it. I mean, this was back in like the BlackBerry days where you'd BBM your friends, you know? And it was just, I don't know. And then one day I probably had like 20 or 30,000 followers at that point. And this was like early tech. So like Dennis Crowley and a lot of Naveen, people early on in tech were obviously on the platform. So we were just kind of following each other. And I remember sitting down with my brother and my mom and my stepdad. And I was like, so I signed up for this thing because when you sign up for a platform, it's not like you tell everyone.
Right.
But I was like, this is kind of crazy. I have 20 or 30,000 followers. And I was like, look at this thing. Like, and so my mom started her own company. She's written 2 cookbooks. She works in the food industry. And so she was like, well, we should register a bunch of names.
Oh, look
like
at your
domain
mom.
squad.
Wow. So smart.
So, because she was early in the .com days, and she was like, this is basically domain squatting.
Yeah.
So we registered at food, at baking. We had at cooking. It got hacked.
Oh, no.
We have at real estate. So we have this little micro network of great names, essentially. Yeah. So,
How many emails a day do you get?
Oh
I will pay you $100,000 for your username.
A lot.
Yeah. I can only imagine. And I'm surprised like the government hasn't stepped in and been like, we have the right for at New York City.
Or like, I get a lot of notifications for password change attempts. We've had the food account hacked. It's been
So at this point, I'm sure you have a contact at Instagram that can help you, hopefully.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I graduated school and I was like, can I curse on here?
Of course. Okay. Yes.
I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? I can't live with my parents forever.
Yeah.
And this was really early on. This was really before influencer marketing is what it is today. So I co-founded really one of the first influencer marketing agencies called the Mobile Media Lab. Great name at the time. And makes sense. Our first client was Nike, and I'm almost positive that they paid us like $50 or $75 in cash. Like, this was back in the time where you had to natively upload the image through the app. You couldn't go into your albums
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot it was like that.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you had to put a filter on it. Like, you didn't have a choice. So yeah, and then I was like, oh my God, there's something here. Of course, my parents are like, oh my God, what is my daughter doing, you know? But it was great because I could work from home when I didn't feel well, and it was...
Gave you flexibility. I mean, that's
complete
huge.
Flexibility. And I had knowledge of what brands were paying for a page in, you know, W magazine, for instance. And so why wouldn't that audience or those budgets convert to digital?
Right.
So yeah, it was just crazy. One of our first major clients was Samsung. They were really one of the first.
They're pretty savvy in the space, and it sounds like they've been there from the get.
Yeah, we did an Insta walk on the High Line, which was so funny with their note. And so they were really one of the first brands to kind of latch on to this idea and experiment with it. So I was there for about 2 years. Then I left to start a company called Cycle, which it was a sister agency to Laundry Service. And yeah, we represented around 200 different influencers. I mean, it was incredible. We really wanted to provide a backbone to a lot of these creatives who didn't necessarily know how to navigate this new landscape and, you know, negotiate with clients, or, you know, you've spoken with many creatives, and it's really a struggle between identifying their worth and actually receiving that from the client.
And not everyone has that middleman manager who can be that. So you were being that for hundreds, if not thousands of creators.
Yeah. So, yeah, oh my God. It was like 4 or 5 years ago when this landscape was really taking off.
Yeah.
And we were sending photographers all around the world for Amazon and Nike, and it was incredible. Yeah.
So how did you first source that talent? Because I'm sure from, you know, you have these connections in the industry, but there's obviously a ton of talent to pull from.
Yeah.
Now you can see that, but I feel like 4 or 5 years ago, when people sometimes even want that hybrid of a really good photographer but also a personality, was that a challenge finding that talent?
So I think since I really was an early adapter in this space, I mean, this was at such a different time in this whole digital landscape when people were meeting up for Insta meets. And, you know, this was back when Instagram had its 4 founders, or its 2 founders, but they only had 4 employees. Wow. And they would invite people to, you know, they invited us to a bar in Brooklyn. And it was just a very, more of a community driven.
It's what we talked about in the last podcast with Jose and Dave.
Yeah. And I've known them for years now. And so it really was kind of incubating those relationships that I had already had. I mean, there were 4 photographers specifically who, when I was leaving my first company to start Cycle, I was like, I'm leaving and I'm starting this, and this is the idea. And they were like totally on board. And I could not have done it without their support, for sure. And I had an incredible team. So yeah, I don't know. It was just a crazy ride. It's changed so much.
Insane that you've been there from the beginning, because I think for me who hasn't, I mean, I got an Instagram in 2011, but it was one of those things I would post once a month and I would get 11 likes and be like, oh, cool. Okay, I'll move on with the rest of my life, but this is neat. I use which filter do I want? Visco wasn't a thing then. But to be one of those early adopters, not just of the platform, but to be a part of that community is super unique. So was that based more in New York City? Were you traveling to the West Coast? Were you going to San Francisco? Where did you find yourself in those years?
Yeah, so it was primarily in New York. And I still talk to a lot of the photographers, creators that I'd met early on. And I mean, it's now become this global network of people all around the world, but it really has just changed so much. I mean, even if you think about the economics of the ecosystem and the apps that have launched, and I mean, it is really insane.
Yeah.